the United States also, there was a heated debate which went on between the president and this person who is a former president and wants to be the next president here. Fireworks and insults flew as Sleepy Joe slurred, and Donald Trump was yet again unapologetic but problematic. The Democratic and Republican candidates engaged in a war of words over all the pressing issues of an everyday Joe, ranging from abortion, immigration, the ongoing war in Ukraine, inflation, and much more. US President Joe Biden delivered, one would say, a shaky, halting performance with a hoarse voice during the debate, whereas his Republican rival and former US President Donald Trump did not hold back and launched a series of scathing and personal attacks. The American people are definitely shocked by Biden's lack of clarity, and the leader's fitness is questionable given the fact that his age is well into the late 80s. His counterpart, though coherent, has a long track record of lying, and this debate was no different. Before we get into the nitty-gritty of things, I'm going to play out this little sequence, the one which has gone viral the most, where Joe Biden stammers and then gets lost, as has often been the case in recent years, and Trump, in his typical bullish fashion, stops America's most powerful man to ridicule him.
And I'm going to continue to move until we get the total ban on the total initiative relative to what we're going to do with more Border Patrol and more asylum officers.
President Trump?
I really don't know what he said at the end of that sentence. I don't think he knows what he said either.
I suppose only Trump can make those debates so colorful, but what does it mean for America? And by extension, what does it mean for India and the rest of the world? To put that to a short debate, let me go across to my colleague, to my guest, Vibhuti Jha, ex-Republican candidate for the New York Assembly, and Saurabh Shukla, editor-in-chief of News Mobile, joining me at this point. Vibhuti Jha, thank you for joining us on Mirror Now. I think it's good morning to you as well there. Your first response, Donald Trump does come across as someone who clearly has the Trump card after yesterday's debate. But a lot of questions still continue as to whether he's the right man to lead the Republicans.
Thank you very much for having me here today. Yes, it is very good morning from New York here. Yes, we did watch the debate. And I can tell you, you're referring to the age factor. What I found, age did matter. It mattered insofar as Biden was concerned. It didn't matter when Trump was concerned. One was remarkably healthy, fit to respond to the challenges, physically and mentally alert, who offered that he had also passed the cognitive tests. The second was Joe Biden, who is fighting shy of his age. Listen, age is a number, we all know that. What is important here is that even a 50-year young man can be lifeless. But in this particular instance, why this debate was important? Because this will set the course in terms of its impact and implication for many democracies around the world, including India. And that's where I'm very concerned about. My focus was this particular election, whoever wins will alter the course of history in future. And what I mean by here is that if Mr. Biden wins, you can see very clearly that the leftist Islamists, the James Bond megalomaniac billionaires will control the fate of many agendas. If Trump wins, we might just see making America great again, the values and the principles that made America what it is today, where everybody from all over the world wants to come, yet giving an arm and a leg, literally and figuratively
But what
speaking.
happens, Vibhuti
So in this
Jha,
particular...
but what happens, Vibhuti Jha, if Trump loses? Because if Donald Trump was, of course, coherent and compared to Mr. Biden, he definitely cut a much more youthful figure. But the problematic statements coming in from the interview were his frequent denials of the blatantly obvious. He continues to insist that 2020 was a stolen mandate, and even now he's put a disclaimer that he will only accept the results of 2024 if they're free and fair, which in Trump speak means that he will only accept the results if that means him winning.
That's a very, very valid question. And I applaud you for asking that. And here is my response. In democracy, what is happening today, if you observe it clearly, what is happening is that freedom is being used as the fault line of democracy. The biggest strength of democracy has begun to be used as its weakness. And what I mean by saying that, you can make accusations to fly around. It takes time to prove it. Do we not remember that Muhammad Qasim did brutal killings in India in 2611. It took us 3 years to prove that he was guilty and mete out the punishment that he deserved. That's what is happening in America right now, if you see it. So this was a classic debate of a president who was there 4 years ago, and now the current president. You can visualize and analyze what has gone wrong. One can today prove that this is where things had gone wrong. So whether it is Russian collusion, Wuhan virus, we are seeing truth coming out now. And that's the thing which I always say, that the enemies of democracy who do not grant you the same freedom and liberties, they exercise the same freedom of liberty to deny you your freedom of liberties and our freedom of liberties and all that. So Trump, yes, for him to say that I will accept this verdict if it is fair and fair election, reminds me of what was happening in India. EVM was at fault if Congress lost. EVM is perfect, then there is no complaint about when they win. This is what is the challenge of democracy, which you and I, the media, people like us, need to highlight and bring it to the common people. This is critical. As I always say, Satyameva Jayate is true. But if you do not stand for truth, then the truth loses out. That's the important part. So for Trump, avoided certain googlies and certain beamers when it came to child credit or XYZ issues. But he stuck to the point that, yes, is it a fair and free election? That's one has to know. In this particular scenario, this debate has thrown a different googly to the managers of elections. Now they know that the deficit is so wide between Trump and Biden. It will be difficult to catch up or, kind of subvert it through any other way that could have been done otherwise. I'm not an election denier. I'm a sportsman. Win or lose is right on the ground. India lost the 50-over match to Australia, but won yesterday against all odds. It happens on the ground. But when somebody plays foul, then it has to be brought out. It takes time to bring the foul
Vibhuti Jha,
out.
that's, I think, the second or third cricket metaphor that you've brought in into your answer. And I hope that's symptomatic of the growing interest of cricket in the United States. But I don't want to digress from the topic a bit too much, which is why I'm bringing in Saurabh Shukla, because we have a very short debate in terms of time. Saurabh Shukla, would you agree with this assessment going in from what we've seen on social media and the reactions to the debate? It seems that 2024 is already a write-off because there are alarm bells ringing in the Democratic camp over the performance which President Biden has put up and the repeated concerns over whether he really is in control of his mental and physical faculties.
Well, Ritangshu, I've interacted with both the candidates, both President Biden and President Trump, and I can tell you this was really a very feeble performance by President Biden and certainly would hurt the Democratic Party. On the issue of Donald Trump, yes, he played to the gallery and he played it well yesterday. Clearly, it's a music to his supporters. What was also good to hear from an objective standpoint was that he has moderated his stand on the abortion issue, which concerns millions of women across the United States. And I'm hopeful as the election gets underway. What I'm gathering is that Democratic Party may have to look for a different candidate because certainly they know that with President Biden as the candidate, there is a huge contrast which emerged from the debate yesterday, and they don't have a winning candidate at this moment. Although, as I say, politics is the art of impossible. Anything can happen. But for now, yesterday's debate, clearly President Trump had an upper hand. It remains to be seen what he does because, he had a very interesting point about skilled immigration. He spoke about giving green cards, not yesterday, but earlier to a lot of university, graduates. President Trump and his campaign also, one would be from India's standpoint, what is his stand on skilled immigration? Because that's going to be very important for a lot of thousands of Indians who are in the queue for green card and who add to the US economy. So those are things which are very, very important from Indian American standpoint. But for now, what I'm hearing is that clearly he dominated the debate yesterday. Yes, there were certain assertions that he made were not factually correct, which was fact-checked, but that was classic. And I would say in terms of coaching, I think his Republican advisors would be happy because, they managed to restrain him not getting into any uncharted territory. He did give President
Okay,
Biden
Saurabh Shukla, are we
chance
getting into
to
a
hurt him, but
contest
that
where
wasn't
it's
taken.
essentially a contest between the devil and the deep blue sea? Saurabh
You
Shukla,
know,
are
I
we
was,
looking at essentially a negative vote deciding as to whether instead of voting for a candidate, you're going to vote against a candidate because you have one candidate, the incumbent president, who there are serious questions over his infirmity, and the other candidate has been established time and again as someone who frequently plays along with the facts. Is it a challenge between the devil and the deep blue sea?
you know, my worry is that my worry is a lot of undecided voters may decide to not vote. That's something which is a concern, and that should be a concern for both the parties, because sometimes what happens is it's a game of numbers. Whoever gets
Okay.
to 271st wins the presidency. So it remains to be seen what happens there in the next couple of months, and the conventions, because see, this debate has happened before a convention. So there is still some time, but I still feel that if no steps are taken, Democrats run the risk of losing
Okay.
these elections. I can tell you at this moment, President Trump, he's dominating, and certainly he does have some court cases to go for. What happens on that? That may have an impact. But yes, American voters have a difficult choice because
So will
this
we
is the world's greatest democracy, and a country for which the future of world in many ways depends, because we are in a globally intertwined world, and
Yes, it is
the
going to be
American
a tough
president
choice indeed,
is
as Saurabh
the
Shukla has pointed out.
unifier of thought. Yeah,
It is going to be a
absolutely.
tough choice indeed, Saurabh
Yes,
Shukla, as you have pointed out.
yes.
And it's something the world is going to be watching at this point. But from the looks of it, as Mr. Vibhuti Jha and Saurabh Shukla have both indicated, it very much seems to be the case of Ab Ki Baar Trump Sarkar. Thank you so much, gentlemen, for joining me on this very short debate. I wish we could have debated longer, but we will continue to have these conversations in the run-up to what's going to happen in the United States.